Hello, Miles from 5 years ago. This is Miles from 5 years in the future. I'm going to give you some advice about what you thought made sense back then and is now correct. This is a book that I used to chart the journey of filmmaking back when I started in 2015. Notes, lots of notes. What was I trying to achieve, and information I learned from workshops and so on. And so I thought it would be fun to just take some time today to flip through a couple of the pages and pull out some of the pieces of wisdom about how I wrote it when I started out and what I've learned now after having done this for 5 years. So for you starting out, this will be advice for you. Funny thing is, we're going to start from the very beginning, the first page, right, back of the book, first page. This is April 11th, 2016, basically when I started freelancing. And I wrote down here a couple things that I think I can sum together with the idea that your mindset is everything. Your mindset is what you take into each day. It affects every action that you do on the job, thinking about the job. And if you're not in a good space, then it's going to be very hard to translate that into achieving your goals. So it's funny that I wrote down here things like, you can't manifest, you need to do, right? You need to take action. What are you afraid of? Fear is just a fight or flight mechanism. Otherwise, it's fake. Have an attitude of gratitude. What you put out is what you get back. And it's funny thinking now that those are things that I still wrestle with, trying to find the motivation to make projects, being scared of putting things out there. But once you've done it for a while, you start to realize that that's what it takes to actually make something. And so it's not that it gets easier, you just get more comfortable at dealing with those fears and pushing past them. Another thing that's in here many times is know your numbers, finances, rates. Now, I've searched in many different ways on what do you charge a client, how much is a project worth. Many times when you get a bid or you have to estimate on a project, the budgets are different, the clients are different. What's the scope of work? And some people will just give you a blanket number to kind of sum everything up under. All I want to emphasize here is to just understand the mechanisms of how your business works, right? How much money do you need to earn to make a profit? What's your average rate for hourly or daily that you need to be able to survive? On the idea of finances, I can talk a little bit about something here. So sometimes you'll get a job thinking that it's a great fit, but you always have to check with yourself whether it's a good fit or not. So here I was doing work at one point for the Oilers as a RoboCam operator. I loved the job and it was a great, fun experience, especially because I play video games, so I was pretty good at it. The amount of work that they were willing to give me versus what I was being compensated, I did the math. I figured out how much money was I going to actually make from this, and it didn't turn out to be a very good offer. And I also had to reconcile that that wasn't the direction that I wanted my career to go. I want to be out there making stuff, direct the client, making bigger projects, and being more involved in the creative process. So knowing the numbers and how much the financial aspect was going to affect me was a good reason why I turned it down and moved on from that. So just reminder, know your numbers. We all start out doing this, and at some point we have to kind of clue in and realize that this isn't the way that things should get done. But don't wait for your clients to give you the projects that you want to do. So many times you're probably not going to have a portfolio, or you're going to have a vision of what you want to do, and you can't wait for the client to somehow imagine what it is that you feel like you should make and then have them sell it to you, because that would make it easier. So what we're really dealing with is just fear. We're scared to try and do it ourselves, or we feel like we don't have the money, and that's something, again, that maybe you save up for. Maybe you find a way to make it work. But it's not the client's responsibility to make your career. You're serving them and their goals and bringing value to them. So try not to hide behind your insecurities. Let's get braver at putting things out there and then presenting things that we think these clients would want. Know how to put in a real day of work. That's a funny thing to say, because I feel like you think you should know that, but especially when you're starting out and even after, Nobody's telling you what a day of work should look like. And I think in the creative industries, we get caught up a lot with thinking that we have a lot of freedoms, or, oh, I'm an artist, so, my hours will change, or the muse will speak to me in a different way. And it comes through a lot of, blood, sweat, and tears that doesn't actually work. Especially in the creative industries, it's really hard to define what your day of work looks like, because it can be very different from day to day. Maybe you're shooting in the field, maybe you're working at your desk, maybe you're calling clients or networking. And B, what other examples do we have to compare against? Usually we see the finished products that people have put out. We don't often see the work that goes into it. So it's funny because this can be a real slippery slope to either getting off track or getting frustrated because you show up in your PJs, you roll out of bed late thinking, well, I'll get work done later, I'm creative, right? Or dabbling in lots of little creative projects because I'm touching creative things, so that must mean a day of work. What it really means is staying focused on the right things that give you actionable results. And it's funny how a lot of that can resonate with putting in work on the creative project, but actually getting somewhere. Calling a certain amount of clients to put out a certain amount of leads, right? Tangible things. Having schedules helps us. The funny thing is, I think a lot of times I've definitely fallen into this trap where you sit at your desk and you think that being at your desk is the work, that somehow sitting in front of your computer and working on the computer means you're in the office and putting in hours. Maybe the best thing for you is to go out and shoot some photos somewhere, or clear up your headspace so you can come in refreshed. And the last thing you want to be doing is sitting at your desk, aggressively waiting for the phone to ring or the emails to come in. And that's a hard one because we feel like if the emails come in, it saves our problems. So again, just learning what an actual day of work looks like for your business to move forward. Try and keep that in your head. Be gentle with yourself because it's a learning process and you're your own business, but learn a real day of work. A huge takeaway I would say from this entire book, and a large part of what this book has been for me, is a way to get my thoughts out on paper to deconstruct the process. Deconstruct the process of what does it take to get to the next step? How do I learn how to charge certain rates? How do I learn how to light better? What am I doing wrong in my business? What do I keep running up into a wall against? A lot of times people will give you advice about mentorship and colleagues, work with them, they'll enlighten your minds. But if you don't have those people, or if you're working remotely, or you don't maybe have a creative family that understands how this kind of works, it can be really hard. So having a place where you can A, get your thoughts out, and B, pick them apart as much as you can, because the further you go down that rabbit hole, you'll find an answer at the bottom of that. It's when you keep searching and nothing new is added to the question that you'll have your answer. So you can use that to reverse engineer where you are and go for it. The last thing that I'm going to talk about here at our little fireside chat is finding the middle. And again, this is a reoccurring theme that I recognized only now, having done this for 5 years. It's really funny because I think we flip from the right side of being really aggressive, attacking problems, trying to be really proactive and punch our creativity in the face, or we go with the total left side, the opposite side, and say I'm going to be really, listen to the process and be pensive and too thoughtful with what we're trying to do. And I think that neither of those are the right path. That both of them are hiding from what we're actually trying to do, and both of them will leave you frustrated. You got to try and walk the middle road, and the middle road means being confident enough to go out and try to do something, being confident enough to try and put something new into the world, to add something with your creative voice, but also being thoughtful enough to put something out that actually has meaning, that has thought behind it, that you didn't just rush out or hop on a trend that's actually unique to you. And so I think that's the hardest place to be, because again, it's always changing as time moves on. Take COVID for an example right now. It's hard to figure out what to do because the entire game has changed in a lot of ways. And finding that middle road of what's an actionable thing that I can do, but that has thought behind it, is the way that you find the most results. It's the way that people want to hear it, because again, it's not in your face, but it's not doing anything. So try and find the middle road in what you do.